Welcome to Chris Gall Online. This video is the first in a series of reflections dedicated to help you, the viewer, better understand the mystery of who you are, who we are as a people journeying together through life, and who God is as the force of life that unites us, strengthens us, and blesses us in so many ways. This and upcoming reflections will in part be based on the liturgical year. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, the liturgical year is a year-long celebration of the life of Jesus from birth to his second coming. And that is this life as is described in the Gospels. Now, this Sunday, we celebrate Advent, which marks the beginning of the liturgical year. And the liturgical year is cyclical time, so it's time that moves in a spiral. We revisit it every year. We remember it every year. We're reborn in some way in our hearts every year. It's not linear time. One way I describe this is when I was working with a group of confirmation candidates, we were looking at the story of the prodigal son. And a young man said, "Why are we talking about this story again? I have already heard it." And I explained to him that the reason why we come back to it is because every time we hear the story, we're a different person than we were the last time we heard that story. And therefore, we will connect with that story in a much different way than we connected before. Because we're a new person. And so in this cycle of time, we keep returning. The other good thing about cyclical time is that core to it is that the people who are further along on the journey return to the beginning and bring in people who are starting afresh. They're not on a pilgrimage where they're, so far down the road that they can never look back. But instead, they turn around, they come back, and they gather more people into the group. They journey with more people. They welcome them. And that's the purpose and the beauty of this liturgical year, this revisiting, this remembering, this rebirth in all of us. So I think we can compare it to a mother who has her second child and doesn't go, "Well, I already changed diapers in my life. I'm not going to do it again." No, she goes back and she repeats the cycle. And the first child watches that cycle being repeated. The family watches the cycle being repeated, and they gather the newborn into their arms, into their family. And they do the same with every person who joins the family, right? And we also call it bringing everyone up to speed, right? And it's a constant process. And so the liturgical year helps us as Christians do the same thing, bring others up to speed. So Advent is the beginning. It marks the preparation time. What do we do to prepare for this renewal, this rebirth, right? And the main thing that we are called to do is to open our hearts to it, because love cannot come into a closed heart. It's not welcome, right? So we want to welcome this love into our hearts. So how do we do that? I mean, there's a lot of ways out there right now where they talk about how people do that. First of all, it helps to notice what is happening in our lives when we've opened our hearts already to love, to gratitude, to awe and wonder. And when I thought of the words awe and wonder, I couldn't help but think again about a newborn baby and what it feels like to hold a newborn baby for the first time. I mean, you look at that child and you could stare at that baby and the wonder of who that newborn is for hours. They're fascinating. They're fascinating. They're so full of possibility and potential. and unconditional love when they just lie in your arms content. That's awe and wonder. And your heart just expands when it happens. Awe and wonder also happens when you watch birds at a feeder, right? You watch the chickadees. It happens when you lay on the beach and you watch the waves roll in and the sand reforming around your toes. Or when you see a mountain for the first time. You can't help but be filled with the awe and wonder of creation. The Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, the Everglades, lakes. There's so many beautiful things. When we would do service groups at church, a lot of the kids would say, I do service because it makes me feel so good. Well, when you open your heart to someone else, your heart opens in return. And that's why it feels so good. It's because you've opened your heart to the possibility of engaging with another person, and through that other person, your heart found God. We find God in each other. So when we love one another, we're opening our heart to God, which is why we need love in this world so bad these days. New possibilities will open your heart. So think of when you were a child, the first day of school. This was a new possibility, right? Now, some of us approach new possibilities with fear on that side of the spectrum, but others of us open it with just bright anticipation. Most of us are a combination of the two. But if you think of all those times when that happened, getting married, very similar, right? A little bit of tinge of fear as to what you're committing to, but also opening your heart to all those possibilities. And so it's the same thing when we open our heart to God. We have a little bit of fear because there's a lot of unknown there, but yet the possibilities are endless. The ability to discover, the ability to learn about who you are and how wonderful a creation that you are just opens your eyes to so many things. And so this Advent season, open your heart to that. Open your heart to discovering something new about yourself, about your world, about others, and about God. And until next time, I hope you may experience that wonderful surprise.